Jai Hind. Today is 24th October, and in this video I shall take you back to the same date in 1947 when a lot had been happening in Kashmir Valley. As narrated in my previous video, by the end of previous day, that is 23rd of October, invaders had started plundering Uri, while the state forces had pulled out of Uri, and about 60 of them under their Chief of Staff, Brigadier Rajendra Singh, were now deployed across a steel bridge which separated Uri from their position. Brigadier Rajendra Singh correctly appreciated that while invaders had all the liberty to keep moving east by passing their position, the key to the invasion lay in those lorries, hundreds of them that had lined up on the other side of Uri town. These lorries, as was known later on, were used by invaders to load their loot, including ladies, and ferry them back to their bases in Pakistan and then come back to rejoin the caravan. So he ordered that bridge to be prepared for demolition, but he didn't give the orders to demolish it because many refugees were still pouring in. As the calendar date changed from 23rd to 24th midnight, Brigadier Rajendra Singh went back to Baramulla, spoke to Brigadier Fakir Singh, who was the brigade commander of Kashmir Brigade, and gave him three orders. First was a company of Fort Jacrif. Fort Jacrif had ceased to exist after treachery at Dumail. However, one company of theirs, under Captain Prabhat Singh, was deployed at Kupwada. So his order was to move that company ahead to Uri so as to join his forces. Secondly, another company from Poonch garrison, where Brigadier Krishna Singh was a brigade commander of Poonch Brigade, was ordered to move via Hajipir Pass. It was a motorable road connecting Poonch with Uri, and joined ranks with Brigadier Rajendra's force. Third order was to keep collecting, gathering whatever troops he could, Brigadier Fakir Singh could do, collect and send them ahead. Having updated his headquarters, Brigadier Rajendra Singh fell back to defensive locality next to the bridge. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, Captain Jwala Singh arrived from Srinagar. He was carrying a written order signed by Maharaja, and that order read that Brigadier Rajendra Singh will fight last man, last round, so as to defend the state. The order also had instructed Captain Jwala Singh that if Captain Jwala Singh somehow could not meet Brigadier Rajendra Singh, Captain Jwala Singh was to carry out same order. It was a clear-cut, unambiguous order given to the whosoever was a commander on ground in and around Uri or Baramulla in that area. However, to the east of Muzaffarabad, the Batika post under Subedar Hukma Singh, having been cordoned by invaders as well as troops who actually were under Subedar Waz Khan. The Waz Khan's name is also mentioned as Mir Waz Khan, the person who had tried to lure Hukma Singh into a trap a few hours ago. Now all those guys were now surrounding and firing at Hukma Singh's position. Hukma Singh's men were taking casualties, and as ammunition started running out after midnight on 23rd, night, Hukma Singh gave orders to evacuate the platoon locality at Batika. The invaders, who were more interested in loot and other things, were really lax, and Hukma Singh with the complete party, including about 6 of his wounded men, managed to sneak out of the cordon, and instead of coming towards the Dumail, where he knew nothing existed anymore, the column headed towards north, towards Thithwal. However, one man in that column was a Muslim soldier, and he happened to be a wireless operator. In the night, as the column was moving out, this guy de-linked himself and rushed to Subedar Waz Khan or Mir Waz Khan at Gohri, that lay about 5 kilometers to the east of Batika. and informed him not only about the escape plan which was being executed by Hukma Singh and his men, but also the fact that many of them were wounded and ammunition was almost over. Within about an hour or so, Hukma Singh's party was ambushed, many were killed, and those who were captured alive were taken to banks of Kishan Ganga, stripped naked, and then shot one by one. Now, this was a very classical case of treachery where own troops, own colleagues, killed their own brothers after having humiliated them in such an unsoldierly-like fashion. One man, however, jumped into icy waters of Kishan Ganga and managed to swim across downstream and survived to tell the tale. Now, what was happening there, nobody knew. There was no communication. So the whole Bhattika platoon got written off. In Uri, state forces kept a watch and waited till the first vehicle of invaders arrived on the other side of bridge in the morning on 24th. That was the time when Brigadier Rajendra Singh gave orders to blow up the bridge. It was blown up in the face of first vehicle. Having blown up the bridge and having forced the enemy to halt, the troops under Brigadier Rajendra Singh stayed and kept on holding the position for next 12 hours. Brigadier Rajendra Singh also knew that he was being surrounded. From both the flanks, bypassing was happening. However, cleverly sighted MMGs carried the day for troops and the position could not be overrun. By evening, however, Brigadier Rajendra Singh was very sure that he will not be able to sustain there, and he gave orders to get ready to move to Mahura, which lay towards Baramulla. While the fight was going on during day on 24th itself, something was happening in Kohala, where Lieutenant Labh Singh was sitting tight with the company, not knowing what to do, not receiving any orders. Communication was down. On 24th in the afternoon, he sees two British officers walking across on that bridge which connected J&K with Pakistan. The British brigadier and one more officer, probably a colonel, asked for the company commander, and the sentry passed the message back to Lieutenant Labh Singh, who went down with his senior JSO. And the British officers very arrogantly told him that everything has been lost, Fort Jackarf has been overrun, and their safety only lay in the fact that in case they were to surrender, the Britishers would make sure that they will be taken to Rawalpindi and will be handed over to troops of Indian Army. Because that time many units were still in the transit. Muslim troops were getting back to Pakistan, and non-Muslim troops and battalions and units in whatever form were travelling to India, and between India and Pakistan there was no offshore war. As Lieutenant Labh Singh stood pondering what to do, the British brigadier told him that he could only ensure safety if Labh Singh and his men were to surrender, get unarmed, and then go along with him. To which Labh Singh simply protested and said he would rather die at the spot defending Kohala rather than do such a shameful act. The Britishers bid him goodbye. Very arrogantly they told him possibly this is the last time they're meeting, and they went away. Labh Singh, as his JCOs got together, made a plan, and they said, we'll sit, wait for things to clarify. If something happens in between, they'll fight it out. In the evening on 24th, two men from Garrison Police Company, the Garrison Police was the state police, from the mail, they reached Lieutenant Labh Singh and told him that Colonel Narayan Singh and a couple of more boys had managed to get out of the mail after having given a good fight to enemy for good about 12 hours. However, Colonel Narayan Singh and his party, including these Garrison police guys, had been ambushed en route, but for these two guys, everybody else had been killed. Now the situation was very clear, and Lieutenant Labh Singh and his order group decided to get ready to move out. Now the question was which direction. Up north, the battalion no longer existed. To the south, or rather southeast, lay garrison of Punch. Now that garrison was pretty far. Terrain was very tough. And Lieutenant Lab Singh had appreciated that if this be the case, that the battalion had been overrun and massacres have happened and people have crossed over his own troops, it was likely that even route towards Punch was not going to be safe. However, they decided to take chance, and now they were ready to move out. But still, by the end of 24th October, they were sitting, holding their locality, waiting for things to happen. By evening on 24th, Pakistani troops had started assembling on the other side of the bridge and started constructing the bunkers. Back to Uri, around 10 o'clock in the evening, that is 2200 hours, Brigadier Rajendra Singh gave orders for troops to withdraw and fall back on Mahura. And as the troops started withdrawing, the invaders who had tried to encircle them and who had already bypassed started following them closely. Only saving grace was, while troops had the vehicles, state forces had vehicles, Pakistani lorries and the invaders' transport had been halted across the bridge, which had been blown up. At Mahura, as the state forces vehicle were approaching, there was a man on duty at the power station at Mahura. He had come from Baramulla, he was a resident of Baramulla, and when he was coming for his duty, he had told his town people that moment he sees Pakistanis coming in, he'll blow up the fuse or he'll shut down the power station. That will be an indicator for residents to run and save themselves. So as he saw this column coming up in the night, it was around 10 in the evening, he couldn't identify who was the identity of the force which was coming over, and he switched off the power station. The whole of valley plunged into darkness. Back at Srinagar, the Shara celebrations were on and dinner was being served when lights went out. While the generator was switched on and Maharaja kept up a brave face and went through the motions of dinner and all, he and people who mattered understood that some danger had now come a bit too close. However, at Mahura, Brigadier Rajendra Singh's force took up position, and very soon thereafter, the contact with invaders who had been following them was made and the firing started. So this is 24th October. Back at Delhi, a signal comes from Army Headquarters for Pakistan, GHQ, General Headquarters, telling Delhi that a tribal horde of 5,000 or 6,000 men had, at their own wish and will, had crossed into J&K and were now invading J&K. The signal very cleverly washed their hands off, saying that Pakistan Army had no control over such people who had been moved by the atrocities being unleashed on the Muslims of Kashmir, which was propaganda, and Pakistan could do nothing about it. Maharaja, however, had toured Punch Mirpur area on 21st October and had spoken to Sardar Patel same evening once he returned to Srinagar. However, Indian government records tell us that the first intimation about invasion of J&K was received from Pakistan Army Headquarters on 24th. Whatever it was, on 24th itself, orders were given to Army Headquarters to get ready to move troops, but the only thing which stood between the help being asked by Maharaja and the help was the compulsion of signing the instrument of accession, and then the process started to unroll. That's it for 24th October. In tomorrow's video, I'll take you through the events that happened on 25th. Thank you. Jai Hind.